Thank you everyone. Welcome to this new session of Journalism AI Connect community calls. In this opportunity, we have a very special guest. We have Gemma Mendoza with us. She is representing Rappler's team. Rappler, if you know, is the Filipino newsroom led by Maria Reza, that also has been working towards fighting disinformation and providing quality information in a very complex ecosystem for news. Gemma is one of Rappler's pioneers, and she helped launch its Facebook page back in 2011 and its website in 2012. And she's the head of digital services and lead research for disinformation and platforms. And she also leads multi-pronged efforts to address disinformation in digital media, harnessing big data research, fact-checking, and community workshops. I also have to say that Rappler is part of the Journalism AI Innovation Challenge, supported by the Google News Initiative. This is a project that Journalism AI leads, and in which right now we are supporting 12 newsrooms around the world to develop different initiatives and different projects in order to understand better how their audiences interact, not only with their content, but with their whole ecosystem, and improve their revenue making processes. In this year edition, this cohort, Rappler is working to build intelligent reader assistant. It's a tool that uses AI-driven recirculation to serve readers at every stage of engagement. Of course, Gemma is going to tell us a little bit more about that project, how they're working on it. But the idea today is that we can also discuss how a small newsroom as Rappler that has such a big impact can also develop tools and technologies with AI without compromising their work. And they've been doing a lot to do that. And I'm very happy that we have the opportunity today to discuss that with you firsthand. So thank you, Gemma. Thank you, Patricia, also for joining us. Thank you, everyone that's here today. And just leaving the floor to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anna. And thank you to everyone who's here. So I'll show my screen now. And then please confirm if you're seeing my slide. Are you seeing it now? Okay. So I'm gonna talk about how we're, so as Anna pointed out, I think what I'll start with is really like where we're coming from, a little bit more of a background about what Rappler does. And most of you probably know Rappler from the fact that we've been the subject of lawfare by the Duterte administration, but also we've been doing a lot of work before that around, beyond actually beyond storytelling. So I'm going to talk about that just to contextualize how our approach, and then also looking at like what we're actually doing already that has to do with AI, and then finally like how we're approaching it given our context, given our concerns, and the things that we think the risks that we think need to be mitigated. So I'll go to so to start with, Rappler was as Anna pointed out, we started in 2011. We are a digital native news organization, so meaning we never had a print version or a legacy media version, really born on native to digital. We built our website in 2012. We started off in Facebook, but we were set up with 3 pillars. So this is the core of Rappler. We have journalism, and then we connect the journalism with communities. This is purposely it's community driven, and then at the same time that connection, that relationship with of journalists with community, we see this as something that we see technology as a way to deepen that relationship, to strengthen that relationship, and also to strengthen journalism, that the work in journalism that we do. And then obviously we try as much as possible to be rigorous and courageous in our reporting. These are some of our most recent and most impactful reports. But also we collaborate closely with civil society groups, with advocates, with different, with the academy, with various institutions, and believe it or not, with even with government institutions. Like in one of the pictures here, some of the pictures here include our partnership with the Commission on Elections in relation to elections, and also with civil defense and the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council in relation to disaster mitigation. So we do a lot of these workshops on the ground. We have a regular program on promoting civic participation in Move.ph. It's our civic engagement arm. And then beyond that, we've been, apart from the website, the work on the website, we've really been looking at tools and building tools and technologies that we both use as listening devices, meaning ways by which our community can communicate with us, or also ways by which we sense the pulse of the public. So these are some of the initial builds that we've done in relation to disaster mitigation, and as well as like social sensing. And then towards 2016, when we started seeing this rise in disinformation online, we became part of the fact check, the IFCN. We've also become a third-party fact check partner of Meta. But beyond that, we did investigations in both disinformation and ways by which platforms have been abused or the manipulation, basically mechanisms of manipulation of platforms. And we try, whenever we see these issues, we look at basically use the lenses of Rappler, looking at data and technology, looking at communities and how community action can essentially like help in addressing these concerns.
Throw all the insulin.
So this is
or metformin you have.
Sorry. This is our
Throw all the insulin.
Looking at the concerns we have on AI. So like given our context, when AI became mainstream, generative AI specifically, because we've been using some of the earlier AI tools like natural language processing and others in analysis, but generative AI was really something that basically became a concern for us, given our context, given the investigations we've done on platform harm, etc. And these are just some of the concerns. Maria, for instance, our boss,
or metformin you have in your home in the trash. If you have type 2 diabetes,
so
watch this.
We don't want to be the vector. One thing that's really very critical for us is that we don't become a vector for disinformation or misinformation online because of AI. So those are some of the concerns. And because of that, when ChatGPT became mainstream, when we've done some work initially on GPT-3 before that, but when ChatGPT became mainstream, the first thing that the organization really did is really looking at like, how do we do this without compromising our values, and while mitigating risks. But before I go into that, I want to show you like what exactly we have been doing with AI. So these are just some of the examples of our use of AI. So we've been using it, we've experimented with AI summarization, with text to video, with text to graphic, and very, very recently, one of the pastimes of our team is we started playing around with vibe coding for story layouts and for other things, for dashboards, for workflows, etc. Our platform uses a combination of AI and human. We combine AI and humans in moderation on our platform, on the chat channels of Rappler. And then we have been using AI for improving user engagement. So for instance, AI summaries, we have used AI for curating, like improving curation on all platforms, as well as we in 2020, we also launched our own chatbot, it's at 2025. And then last year, one of the key projects was this real-time trend, using AI for real-time trend intelligence. So basically, because we have been monitoring social media and search algorithms, we have been studying, like developing a playbook around search engine optimization. And one of the things that we looked at for this project last year was looking at data on trends and using AI to taking using the principles of search engine optimization, converting data on trends into something that is actionable for the team. So like, if we missed something, for instance, that's trending, it's a notification. It sends a notification to a chat room that our editors are monitoring, and that allows them to like fill up something that we haven't covered in the agenda. And then at the same time, if we already have a story that's whose subject matter is trending right now, this tool basically helps us give suggestions on how to tweak like elements of the story, so it can be more visible in search results. Then at the same time, the goal is to really like use this for helping our editors, helping our writers prioritize stories, or like look at stories that might be relevant at a particular period, given data that we have, stories, etc. So and trends. So we've been also using AI. I mentioned earlier that we've started experimenting with AI in during the 2022 election. So we've been using it to generate profiles and generate basically basic profiles of people. So a big part of that is because Philippine elections are nationwide, and when you have a national elections, there's always that chance where we just focus on the few people in the national, few candidates at the national level, and those are the ones we profile. But in this case, what the challenge what we are trying to do is to get as much as information about people running for elective positions during elections. So this is now something that we're trying to do at scale, and we're trying to do this for every election since then. So and in fact, at the moment, we're looking at going backwards through time. So the other thing that we're looking at, and this is still experimental, really looking at the sizable amount of information out there, the primary information out there, documents, for instance, like audit documents, and looking at how do we use AI in order to surface meaning and surface insights coming from these documents. So that's one of the things that we're looking at, and we hope that will help us scale accountability monitoring. This is my particular obsession. So before I became interested in all these other things, I was really like primarily reporting on the national budget, which is the worst, I mean, the most difficult subject because it's so boring. And part of the things that we want to do really is to make, because the Philippine budget is so convoluted, very few people understand it. What we want to do is to make it more accessible to the public. And right now, we're structuring, so we were using AI to extract data from voluminous text the budget law, and then looking at ways by which experimenting on ways by which we can extract the information from this text. So it's still a work in progress. I've been struggling with AI, with getting the AI to do this right, and it's something that I'd be happy to discuss the pain we're going through here. And then the other thing, because we're a big focus of Rappler is really community engagement and working directly with communities on the ground. We've been looking at AI as a way by which we can enhance participation and deliberations at scale. So in a couple of years ago, we were one of the 10 finalists to a call out by OpenAI on how to essentially like ways by which you can use AI to enrich democratic consultations. And this kicked off this project called AI Dialogue, which it's essentially a moderator in a chat that allows people, that consults people. So it's like a scaled up version of an FGD. And the first time, and this one, apart from using that instance, we've been using in other deliberations, both with partners, public sector partners, but also with brands. So that's something which is now helping also with monetizations. But I think I want to highlight this particular activity because we worked with a local government here in getting insights from the public on how they can make a policy for pedestrianizing one of the busiest streets in Quezon City, the biggest city in Metro Manila, in pedestrianizing that. So like the consultation became the mechanism by which the public gave suggestions on how this policy can be more acceptable to the public. So that right now that is an so that became a way to enrich an ordinance, a local ordinance that was enacted by that city government. And now obviously we're working on the intelligent reader assistant that was mentioned by Anna. I'd love, open to hear from you about this, but this is basically essentially we arrived at this because we have already gone through the other steps, and we thought that at this time we now have some of the basic infrastructure that we think we need in order to scale up and make the AI more visible on the platform. And how are we mitigating risks? How are we protecting our values and concerns in relation to AI? These are some, so to begin with, like the lenses are this. So you have the risks from the public. We are concerned about these risks from to the public, like misinformation, the vulnerable, potential harm to vulnerable subjects, potential erosion of audience trusts, etc. Contribute, and obviously we don't want to contribute to the AI slop that's polluting the ecosystem. And then there are also critical concerns for the organization, like reputational risks, the possibility of information leaks via cloud tools. We're concerned about data privacy, and obviously, like we want to make sure our journalists are on their toes; they're not depending on AI. And finally, actually, this is a very recent concern. When agentic AI was introduced, we really started re-examining us again, like what are the measures by which we can look at, like mitigate risks with the agentic systems, because obviously that expands the potential attack surfaces and as well as potential harm. So what are the things that we've done so far? So the big part of this is like engineering an architecture that grounds AI in fact. So we didn't just slap in our chatbot to our content. What we did is like we developed first a knowledge graph. And so this is the hard, I mean, essentially like using structured data so that apart from our from the unstructured data, which is the articles, to ground the AI and link entities that are in our stories to actual entities that we know of. So vetting that there's essentially like making sure that the AI is not interpreting or attributing a particular trait to the wrong person. And this is a particular concern for me. It's like when we were starting with this, I tried testing our chatbot, and realized that even if you connect the AI with verified content, with content that you actually can vet, I mean, if you can stand with, there are still risks. And one of the risks I identified was, like, I asked it who Gemma Mendoza is, and it attributed certain traits to me. Like, it said I was a widow when I was not, and it turned out that there was another Gemma in the data in one of the articles that we have, which the AI found had another Gemma. So that's why that information was actually about her. So we made sure that AI has to be sure. Sorry about I'm in a mall and a coffee shop. So we made sure that those are the first things that we tested for. So we also made sure that our AI, chatbot, does not and knows when to say I don't know. But even then, for the initial run, we confined it to a chat room within our community platform, so that we can monitor it closely. So and because it was linking, so one of the things that we made sure of is that it whenever it delivers a story, a response, it is linking to sources within the database. So because of that, it's possible for us then to look at whether there was an actual error in the story, or whether it was really the algorithm that needs to be fixed. And then the other thing that we did really is and this is something like really fundamental. I think it's very important. It allows while it might seem counterintuitive that you have an AI policy, and which might prevent the use of AI, but actually what it does, we realized, is that it gives the organization a framework for using AI. So they're allowed to innovate with it. So it's clarified that they're allowed to innovate with it, but within a set of frameworks. And this framework is not something that was just delivered from up top. It was something that was developed bottom up. So everybody discussed it. We did workshops before this was rolled out. And very recently, in fact, it's also a live document. So we updated our guidelines very recently when we saw with the coming to with the rise of agentic systems. So essentially, they're really something that we examined our workflows, and we look at, like, how do you make sure that the policies both support innovation, but also establishes and ensures that guardrails are in place. And essentially, the commitment is this: humans are accountable. So the bot, nobody can make excuses and say that the error was an error of the bot. It is still human. Nothing is published without a human really looking at the content, without a human making sure that the content is accurate, or at least like reviewed. The sources are reviewed. We make sure that that we're transparent. If it is something that is automated, it has to be labeled. And even if it is not automated, even if we just used AI for a portion of the work, we need to declare. And then we make sure that there are safety precautions. So, like, the team was the policy requires that when people are using data by the organization, they are using enterprise accounts. And then also, in fact, one of the policies is that with respect to sensitive information, like, for instance, interviews by sources, which might be a potential data leak, like which might compromise the security of the source, we don't use AI. And then, and part of the policy is really making sure that there's also ongoing education on the use of AI, and as well as an ongoing discussion always on understanding AI, and because the technology is evolving, we monitor it closely, make sure people are aware, and they are also actively like looking at this, and both experimenting, making sure they understand it, but they're also conscious of risks. So yeah, that's basically all my slides, and I'm happy to answer questions.
That's perfect, Gemma. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking us through your work. And again, like just to reinforce, like doing this in such a context of constraints, of like being prosecuted and that kind of things, like that means a lot. And especially also building it from the global south, and that also comes with some complications, let's say. Well, let's open the floor to questions. You can ask your questions in the chat, or so you can also raise your hand in case you wanna just ask it out loud. You are welcome. I can start with one question, just like thinking, because you mentioned about how long you've been working and developing these kind of solutions, and that also comes along with the situation that all these tools have improved a lot in many ways, also have changed. So sometimes, I mean, I find like many organizations that perhaps they worked in projects that they had just to abandon them because they were not useful anymore. And if you could go back and knowing what you are able to do today, what would have been your first priority like 5 years ago in terms of infrastructure, in terms of
yeah, I think actually, to be honest, I think we would still have gone through the process. There are low-hanging fruits. So there might have been a few more low-hanging fruits that we might have experimented with. But I think also for us, like, for instance, the intelligent reader assistant, essentially that idea scales up, generating almost at the article level. So the thing with that is like, I mean, like if you are already seeing that at the chatbot level that you are monitoring, sometimes there are concerns, like there are issues that arise. So every now and then I would jump in if there are issues or if there is a little misinterpretation. If you scale it up so fast, then I wouldn't have been like that. That compounds the risk. So we tried to be prudent in the rollout, so as I was saying, right now we feel a little bit more comfortable because we know that the way the bot processes content and generates content or responses, it is like it's good enough so that it's not that much of a risk for us to do that at a larger scale. But at the same time, yeah, obviously, I mean, like, yeah, so haste makes waste. I thought, yeah.
It's perfect. Andreas?
Yes, hi Gemma, and thank you for a good presentation, and impressive what you are doing with AI. My name is Andreas. I'm working for a Norwegian financial paper called E24. And I absolutely share your idea about education before adoption, even though like experimenting with the tools as well can be like a good form of educating yourself. But I was wondering if you have like, if you could be like a bit more concrete on what kind of like upskilling initiatives you are doing at Rappler. That would be interesting to hear.
So very recently, actually, like the latest round was on vibe coding. So we had a few members of the, like we were doing it by cluster because the risks are different across clusters, and also the demand or the needs are different. So we recently had a vibe coding session with our admin and finance teams So they they enjoyed doing dashboards with the data that they have, their organizational data. But that was after we did like an organizational briefing on the updates to our updates to the policy. So essentially, at Rappler, what we try to do at the outset is like make sure that we take the organization with us. So that's partly through regular general assemblies, but also through the training. So data is actually one of the things that we realized with the as we are using AI is that there's value to structured like really good like well structured data, and that's one of the things that we also did with our team. So everybody's forced to learn data journalism and creating their own databases. I like to joke that I torture them. So some of the people are tortured are in this room, making sure that everything is in database formats, etc. So yeah, Loris is smiling because yeah, that's my role. I torture everyone, and what we try to make sure of is like ideally it's fun. So we play around with tools. We look at it. We experiment, and then we take a step back and like look at, okay, what did we need to have in place in order to make sure this does not go wrong. So yeah.
Thank you. And very interesting to hear that you are doing vibe coding courses or experimenting with that as well. Have you been experimenting with that with the newsroom and with the journalists as well? And have you come up with like any good like new journalistic methods using vibe coding?
Well, one of the things that we really looked at is because our journey, we have a very slim tech team. We only have a few people who are in house, and our journalists like to, yeah, after we train them on data, they like to present their data better, and at the same time, they also want their stories in really nice layouts, like to highlight their work, right? And the thing is that requires a lot of effort on the part of the tech team. If that would have required a lot of effort in the tech team, and they would we would rather that they focus on platform work and making sure that our systems are robust, and they're investing. Basically, they focus on from the AI side, like to really focus on our long term, the more strategic initiatives. So as the while that's being done, we work with our journalists. So we train them on that so that they can like look at new forms of telling the story, and a number of them already did that. So there were a few. So one of the slides actually was on that. Sorry, it's not very visible, but basically like they started looking at combining the data that we have, like timelines, etc., and then producing work that is more than just narrative. So essentially and they're enjoying it. So it's like they were empowered. So for our tech team, so the guardrail there is like you have them doing it, but obviously AI, the problem with AI is like code, there might be things in the code that can become risks and can become like mechanisms by which we might be attacked, or uh, backdoors to our system. So we make sure that before anything is deployed, it's reviewed by the tech team. So basically we have those so in effect it goes through editorial for the other things, for the clarity, for the storytelling, for the facts, and so on, for the vetting, but also goes through our tech team then for making sure that the code is robust, for making sure that nothing breaks, it doesn't break the system, etc.
Thank you so much.
Here, there's a question from Amen. I saw it. Sorry. Yeah, these models built on vibe coding. I personally like the election model, and I think it'd be great to have a similar bot here to compare what contestants are offering.
So the election work, it's not built on vibe coding. Unfortunately, we can't do that. So basically, we developed our so we started with developing an ontology, basically a way to organize information, the data, in a way that's really more than relational. Essentially, we're connecting different nodes and making sure that we're able to develop triples, ways by which we, little sentences using the information, the different information. So Marcos has, and so on. And with that, having developed, so we started with that. We were the first to develop the Philippine political ontology, essentially. And then that became the basis of the knowledge graph that we have. So the knowledge graph we developed has top level, like high level entities, like for instance, people, places, etc., which is really the foundation of Google, right? The Google search, they started that. So we've long been it's something that we've been dreaming of, essentially. And then from there, you have the knowledge graph. Now you can develop so everything, the stories, including the structured data, are part of the knowledge graph. Our system, the system, we made sure that we are looking at something that we can use on any LLM. So we also have a vector DB. Essentially, the graph route infrastructure, that was what we bought, and then that's something that can be then connected to anything like Gemini, OpenAI's, ChatGPT, or whatever. The web, depending on what is the. So essentially, you're building for the future, and it doesn't. I mean, we're not. We're looking sustainability here, like what, because we don't really have a lot of resources for tech. So yeah. I hope I answered that question. So essentially, it's. I mean. Yeah, that was the foundation, and from there we started with a chatbot, and now we're rolling it to our pages.
Perfect. If anyone has a question, I have a question about, like, you mentioned about that you would iterate and then evaluate, and what are your most important KPIs in terms of evaluating what is working and what doesn't? And also, I would like, I mean, specifically discussing the sustainability of a project that you just mentioned. Also, what are the main strategies around deciding that is related to the KPIs? Like, when and how you decide about just killing off a project or just keeping it?
So there are low budget projects, like, and that's something you just allow people to do. Just make sure that you have the guardrails in place. But when you start looking at, say, like an investment in something like RAI, which is a lot of things, like, the knowledge graph, the development of it require, like, and even structuring the data, like you need a lot of people. In the Philippines, we don't have a lot of structured data. Unfortunately, our government makes it so difficult to give us, like, the data in the format we need. So we're among the people. I think a lot of countries in the global south are like that, like the data about public officials, people who are running for public service. You have to encode them. So we work with volunteers, but we also have our own in-house team, research team, that's been trained on encoding. So it's a lot of grant work. And then yeah, so that meant that I had to pitch to management and make sure. So it took years for me to justify this investment, and also I had to raise funds for it. So to make sure that we invest on it, and a big part of that is, like, justifying, like, what might be repurposable. So it's not just going to serve this chatbot, this infrastructure, but it's also helping us develop a navigation system within Rappler. So we now have a topics directory, very robust topics directory that allows us to, serve essentially our own search engine within Rappler. So it's not just, the work is not just supporting one item, one thing, but it's like it's supporting a lot of items for something like this or an infrastructure like this. And during elections, are essentially the at the end of the day, it's really like, okay, page views, like how much page views did it deliver. And I think I'm actually very happy to say that the work done here, apart from the fact that we were able to prototype right, was able to serve us during the election. So we were able to serve pages, and then at the height of the, like, moving towards the elections, in fact, people were going into the pages that we developed with both AI and human grunt work, and they were using it for homework, for their homework as voters. So it was very heartening for us. I mean, they were researching who to vote for on Rappler.
That's nice. I mean, it means a lot also for a newsroom to understand how their impact is defined. I mean, how, like, and are you using AI for also, like, to track impact, or?
Well, to some extent, yes, for just looking at the numbers, but also I think we have the usual metrics, right? Like I mean, part of the goal here is to increase engagement on the site. So for the IRA project, but also we look at impact in the real world. Like, for instance, did it serve our readers well? Like, are they using it to improve their understanding of leaders? So they are. And so both metrics are important, both the impact, the social impact for us, as well as the actual impact in terms of, like, increase in page views, which also happened during the elections. And during, we are seeing actually that the work that we've done on the profile pages, that was partly done with help of AI, that's returning that's generating returns.
Cool. I know if there's any other question. I have more questions, but I want to like allow people also, so you can raise your hands again and ask directly. We only have Gemma here. I remember, just to remind you, there's also Patricia that's also working on this project, that on JournalismAI Innovation Challenge. Also, one thing, because the JournalismAI Innovation Challenge is also very collaborative. I mean, we also want people, I mean, that these projects are working on issues that are relevant to the whole journalism industry. And so I would like to ask you about what have you learned so far that might be interesting in terms of, for example, like, for other organizations to just, I don't know, save their time. Don't waste time doing that. Or perhaps something that you said, why didn't we try this before? Or, well, anything that you think that, oh my God, I would have loved to know that.
I think more of, like, the use of data, because again, one of the challenges is that there's for the Philippines, it's really like access to information, like access to data information in machine readable format that you can then analyze, and there's just so many things that we'd love to be able to do actually at the same time, except that obviously like, we have very little resources. But, like, for instance, one of the things, like, I showed you the audit reports, and one of the things that I would have loved to have done, like, early on, was, like, putting everything somewhere, like, and then just like, digging through it and looking at at the whole thing with AI. So I guess it's not so much as like I wish I have done that, but it's really like there's so much that we'd love to have done actually as well. Like because there's so much that you can do actually. Like particularly with volumes and volumes of the information out there that's in unstructured format that you can dig through. Now that you have this tool, you have this powerful tool, but at the same time, I think like yeah, in some cases maybe it's also about like, okay, maybe I'm over. It's really the back and forth on like, okay, do we do this now, or how do we manage the risk? So it's really that that's the challenge that that's the back and forth, I think.
And if there's one need that you might ask from the community of people that are working in AI, if there's anything you are needing right now.
Okay, what do we? Yeah, we'd love to know what you have done with PDFs. And
Okay.
yeah, it's still a challenge. So like our budget and a lot of the documents that are government releases, we'd love to have those available to the public. But what we realize is like, okay, when it's in PDF formats, you actually get a lot of garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and because you get a lot of garbage, there's that the tendency to misinterpret desire. So so we'd love to make to actually the pet project is really like making all that information available to our users, to our community. And yeah, one of the key challenges really like one of the holy grail apart from languages, for instance, is really like looking at documents and making sure that they are interpreted right. So I'd like to hear from everyone here. Oh my gosh. So everyone has the same problem.
We will ask everyone from now on. But I guess yes, it's a common challenge. And well, I don't know if there's any other question here. Gemma, also like Patricia, if you want to share anything else, and if you want to, of course, share your contact details or where people can reach out to you in case, of course, because Rappler's work in so many ways is so relevant for journalists around the world, and not only because of AI implementation, but also because of the fight for press freedom. And so, yeah. I think that it's also very important that when we discuss about AI, we are very aware of the limitations and the differences between contexts, and what does it mean, especially what does it mean or what can it mean when we do it wrong in a context in which like you are not perhaps just 100% safe in your own country, or like and these situations. I think it's very important, and like how you're presenting this. I think it's very relevant.
Yeah, I think so. I think the reason why we are so conscious of risks is really because when we were attacked in the height of the Duterte administration, that people attacking the media, they tend to be really, if they're motivated, and I mean likely because of a lot of resources involved, but what that means really is like they can be very imaginative in the way they attack media. So any error, anything can be screenshotted and can be, amplified significantly. So we really are like, the risk the risk consciousness is very, very high because of that. Like we're really looking at, like, for instance, when we're talking about agentic systems, one of the things that we realized is that because I'm sure everybody here right now is being attacked by agentic systems like crawling our servers, and essentially that's another like looking at ways by which we can mitigate that. That's also something that we're looking at. Like, okay, is it possible to use AI for that, like detecting whether bots are scraping us, and or whether they are like whether these are humans. Those are really some of the things that we are concerned about. Like, and I think towards that, it's really great to have a community of newsrooms, journalists might be interested in sharing experiences and ways by which we can mitigate risks.
That's perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much. I know it's very late over there in Philippines, and thank you also for taking that time and also missing that jam. I think that in many ways, I mean, this has been a very valuable conversation. And for everyone that attended, this is the first one that we do with the current cohort of the Journalism AI Innovation Challenge. If you want to learn more about the different projects that this year that these teams are working on, I'm gonna just share with you also the link of the Innovation Challenge. Also, in case if you have missed last year, we also published a report with the work and the case studies of 35 projects that took part last year. And these are very relevant conversations in terms of how do we ensure that this work is done right and is done to serve our goals of doing quality journalism and serving our communities. So, well, just keep an eye open, because next time we're gonna be also sharing who's coming next. And thank you all for coming, and see you soon.